What's happening, guys? Oxford King here, and in this Path of Exile 2 video, we're going to be talking about meta gems. Let's get started. So first up, what are meta gems? If you come to a meta gem of any kind, let's go ahead and look at the tag called meta, and go ahead and click on that. And it says the following: meta gems are skill gems that can use, trigger, or otherwise apply the effects of other skill gems. Skill gems and support gems can be socketed into them interchangeably, though most meta gems require at least one skill gem to be socketed to function. So in this example here, let's look at the very first meta gem here on screen, and it just so happens to be called Cast on Freeze. And if you look, the tags say persistent, trigger, cold, and meta. So we're focusing on meta for this video. So what exactly does this mean? So if you notice here, I have Cast on Freeze socketed into the skill menu here, along with the spell called Comet, and then Comet is being supported by a gem called Spell Cascade, and then Impetus. That's what our current setup is. In order to get a meta gem, you need to use an uncut spirit gem that looks like this right here. Then it says creates a persistent buff skill gem, or level an existing gem to fill in the blank as far as what level you want to go up to. And once you engrave a spirit gem, you'll be greeted to this menu here like we've all seen, and you simply go through the list here of what you have available to you, and that's how you can get a meta gem. Simply look for the tag though. As you can see on screen here, we have Arctic Armor, but it's not under the tag meta. If I go down to Cast on Ignite, you'll see the meta tag, Cast on Freeze, Cast on Shock. They all have the meta tag on them. Here's another example called Cast on Minion Death. If you look off here, it says meta skill. So this is a meta gem under that category. Another example is Barrier Invocation. You get the point. So any of these things like this, if you're looking for the meta tag, just make sure you look for that first. Now, most of these meta gems require a resource called energy in order for them to trigger. But there is some, like this one here called Blasphemy. It's under the meta tag, but it doesn't require energy for it to trigger. But instead, it's a buff. But again, it's under the meta tag. So when I think of a meta skill, I think of a skill that you can place into your skill menu here, and you simply add on skills onto the meta gem. So think of it as automating everything that you want to do with either a click of a button or automating it. So if you don't want to have each individual item in your skill menu onto your bar, you simply use a meta gem, and you'll just put all the skills or spells next to that meta gem, so it all works with, like I said, either a click of a button or it automatically happens for you. That's the beauty of a meta gem. They're really, really powerful. Now, back to the Cast on Freeze example, you'll see that in here it says while active, it gains energy when you freeze an enemy, and it will trigger socketed spells on reaching maximum energy. So how do you gain energy? Well, it says it right here. You gain energy when you freeze an enemy for Cast on Freeze. Now, you can actually increase the amount of energy that you can get through several ways. One of which is a support gem called Impetus, where it says supported skills gain 40% increased energy. Another tip here is that you want to make sure that you look at the quality part of these meta gems. So in this example here for Cast on Freeze, I'm simply going to hit R3 on the gamepad. I believe it's Alt on the keyboard mouse. I can't remember. Somebody drop a comment, let me know. But in here, you're going to look at the bottom of the screen. It says additional effects from quality, right? So if you add more quality to this gem, you get 0 to 15% increased energy gained. So you are definitely going to want to add quality to the gems that have the tooltip that tell you the additional effects from quality. A lot of you guys are brand new to Path of Exile and obviously POE2, and you have no idea how to even quality a gem. What does that even mean, right? So if you tab over here to the inventory here, we have an item called Gemcutter's Prism. You're going to see a lot of POE folks say GCP for short. That's Gemcutter's Prism. This is what the icon looks like, and what this is it improves the quality of a skill gem. And if you look at the screen, it even says to use this on a skill gem to apply it, okay? And then a maximum quality goes up to 20%. Now, in POE1, there is a way to get the gem up to 21, 22, and even 23% 50% in some cases. I don't know if that's the case in POE2. I'm sure it is. Let's go ahead and put this into practice. I'm going to go and do this right now. So I'm going to use the Gemcutter's Prism. We're going to come over to Cast on Freeze right here, and I'm going to apply it. And when I do one of them, you get quality 5%. And if I hit R3, it now says 3% increased energy gain from 5% quality. So here we have a 20% quality level 11 cast on freeze. When I hit R3 on here, it's going to say 15% increased energy for cast on freeze. I highly recommend that you look at your setup and your meta gem to find out what quality will do for that gem. Right now, the ways that I get Gemcutter's Prism is through just playing the game. I get drops from enemies. That's how I get that. You can also go over to the currency market and also trade on the market for GCP. Simply open up this menu here, tab over to I want section, and you're gonna look for Gemcutter's Prism, which is right here at the bottom. Go ahead and select that. I don't know what it's worth today, so I'm going to say I'm going to have Exalted Orb, and let's see what we can get. It says for 2 Exalted Orbs, I get 1 Gemcutter's Prism, or 2.1 is the market ratio. Let's see what we can get for a Divine Orb. So we get 35 Gemcutter's Prisms for 1 Divine Orb today as of this video. Let's see if Chaos Orb is a thing. So it looks like 1.1 Chaos Orb is the equivalent of 1 Gemcutter's Prism. I don't know if Alchemy is a thing. Let's see if it is. It says 6 Orb of Alchemy. You get 1 Gemcutter's Prism. But that's the point. So if you have the currency, come in here and see what you have versus what you want. Pick up some GCP that way. Another support gem is called Energy Retention, where it says skills triggered by supported meta skills have a 35% chance to refund half of their energy costs. These are just some examples. You could also go to the skill tree and look for nodes such as this one here, where it says meta skills gain 8% increased energy, another 8 right here. Then you have Dynamism here, where it says meta skills gain 15% increased energy. Another spot on the tree is up here on the north side. All of this area right here is energy based, where you can gain energy or increase the energy that you take in. You can even have Energize, where it says 25% chance for trigger skills to refund half of energy spent. You can even head over to the POE2 trade website and look for jewels that have the tag meta skills gain a percentage of increased energy. So in our example here, we have Cast on Freeze along with Comet, and then Spell Cascade, and then Impetus. Just take note that the support gems cannot be socketed into here unless you have a supporting skill. So an example here is, let me unequip Comet, and then let me unequip Spell Cascade, and I'll unequip Impetus as well. So what we can do here is we're going to try to put in Spell Cascade, and if you notice, Spell Cascade cannot be equipped to Cast on Freeze, because Spell Cascade goes with a spell. So Impetus, for instance, can go with Cast on Freeze because Impetus is a support to Cast on Freeze, which I'll place here. Now, when you do this, remember that it does cost Spirit. That's your reservation that's required for these meta gems to work, okay? In this example, Cast on Freeze has a cost of 60 Spirit. And you're going to simply go ahead and turn that on. It's going to take away the 60 Spirit, but now Cast on Freeze can function correctly. Once you've done that, make sure that it's assigned to the proper weapon set that you're using for your build. In this example, I only have 1 weapon equipped, so we're going to keep it on weapon set 1. Next up, let's go ahead and apply a spell here. We're going to apply Comet and go ahead and simply equip Comet to Cast on Freeze. Again, this is just one simple example for this video. The world is your oyster. You go ahead and play around with whatever you want. Test out different spells. Now, let's go ahead and support Comet. I just so happen to have a support gem called Spell Cascade. And we select this, it'll actually say the support can't be socketed into this skill. Well, that's true. However, you can still socket this in because of Comet. What it's saying is Cast on Freeze cannot support Spell Cascade, but Comet can. So don't let that red text fool you. You can still move over and drop it in. The game will actually prevent you from dropping it in if it won't let you. So now we have our setup. We have Cast on Freeze, we have Comet, Spell Cascade, and Impetus. Let's go ahead and put this into practice. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find some enemies and we're going to kill them. But in our example here, we have Cast on Freeze, which means the spell will cast when an enemy is frozen. albeit your energy meter is built up. Now, if you look at the bottom of your screen here, you're going to see the cast on freeze icon with a 0% above that icon. Our objective here is to get that meter to fill up to 100%. Once the energy reaches 100%, then Comet will cast automatically. So here's an example of that. Let me kill some enemies here. And you see the meter at the bottom of your screen. We're at 6% now 13, now 65. And now, let's see what happens when we automatically cast. So here we are at 85% energy built up. We still haven't cast Comet yet. So let's still keep freezing enemies and see what happens. Boom, there's Comet that just triggered because we reached 100% energy. That's how that meta gem works. When we open up our menu here, we have other meta gems that are very similar to cast on freeze, such as cast on critical and cast on shock. These work exactly the same as cast on freeze, but with different ailments. As an example here, cast on shock relies on you shocking an enemy to build up energy, and then it'll trigger the spell. Cast on critical says while active, you gain energy when you critically hit enemies and trigger socketed spells on reaching maximum energy. These work exactly the same. Another type of a meta gem here is called Elemental Invocation. And this says while active, this invocation gains energy when you freeze, shock, or ignite an enemy. Using the invocation once sufficient energy is gathered will consume the energy to trigger socketed spells and can trigger them multiple times if it has enough energy. Now, notice with this example here that this one will not automatically cast a spell. You still are required to hit a button. What this does is it stores the energy until you hit the button in command for the spells to trigger, okay? What we're gonna do is, let's go ahead and remove cast on freeze and set that aside. And in its place, I'm going to equip Elemental Invocation. Now remember, this also requires Spirit, so make sure that it's turned on and reserves that Spirit. This one also costs 60 Spirit. Let's go ahead and turn that on here. We also want to make sure that it's equipped to the right weapon set. In this example, we're on weapon set number 1. Now we want to set skill bind to our hotbar. So in this example, I'm going to go and put this on my R1 or right bumper, or if you have keyboard mouse, just simply put it on a key that you know that you can hit to trigger these spells. So in this example here, the Elemental Invocation icon is at the bottom of the screen, and we're going to build up energy just like cast on freeze, only this time we actually have to press a button. And the good thing about this is whenever you're killing an enemy like this, building up your meter, if you don't want to have the spell automatically trigger and you'd rather wait for a boss fight, that's really good for that instance. So you can just sit back and wait, build up the meter like you see at the bottom of your screen. See, it says 100%, but it hasn't cast yet, okay? So now you can sit and wait until you go up to a pack of mobs or a boss fight, and you're a little bit more prepared rather than wasting an auto cast like this right here. I hit a button and I walk up to the enemy and that's what happens. You get what I'm saying? So there's a little bit more control you have over a meta gem like this one, where you simply build up your meter just like this, and you hit the button yourself when you're ready for it to cast. All right, so you have options. Another example of a meta gem is called Reaper's Invocation, and it says while active, this invocation gains energy when you kill an enemy with a melee attack. Using the invocation once sufficient energy is gathered will consume the energy to trigger socketed spells and can trigger them multiple times if it has enough energy. So take note that you must kill an enemy first for this gem to gain energy. And yes, you do have to have this action on your hotbar, and you will have to manually press a button like the prior example in order to trigger this. Look at cast on minion death. It's the same thing. While active, you gain energy when one of your minions is killed, and it'll trigger socketed spells. So if you're running a minion build and your minions are dying, this will automatically cast more minions. That's another choice. You can have, basically spells being cast for your minion setup so that when one dies, you can start casting more stuff and constant replace your army, okay? That's a really good example. But any of these meta gems that require energy, they all essentially work the same. Some of them are auto cast depending on that criteria that's met, and the others are simply building up energy until you press a button. Now, another type of meta skill that I want to take a look at is called Blasphemy. It is under the meta tag, and this one says it turns socketed curse skills into an aura, applying their effects to all nearby enemies. And what this is going to allow us to do is we don't have to manually cast a curse anymore. But instead, when enemies get near us in the radius, they're automatically cursed based on what you've applied to this Blasphemy meta skill. Let's put this into practice. Now, Blasphemy does reserve 60 spirit. So if you look at the tooltip here, and this is one thing that I do want to point out, is this tooltip actually doesn't really say at the very top, like the other ones do, that says reserve 60 spirit. I kind of wish it did. But where it does say it at is under that buff tab, that second line, reserves 60 spirit per socketed curse. So keep that in mind. Each curse you apply or have linked will have an additional 60 spirit. So if you want 2 curses, you're going to have 120 spirit. But in this example, we're only going to do 1 curse. We're going to do conductivity. You're going to turn that on. Make sure you turn it on in this menu here. If you're on gamepad, it looks like this. Keyboard mouse players, you'll simply just click on the icon. It'll turn it off and on. But again, it is 60 spirit. So we do have it on. We have conductivity. And when you walk around, you can already see there is an icon or a logo that's like kind of hovering beneath my feet around the base part of my character. And when I walk up to an enemy, they're all going to be cursed. You see the curse symbol above them? They're all being cursed. Now the radius is rather small. You can increase that with support gems if you want the radius to be even larger. You can actually get area of effect on the skill tree as well. But look at that. They're all cursed with that conductivity. Another meta gem that I want to take a look at is Hand of Chayula. And if you notice, it is under the meta tag. So this means that once you put all of these other skills next to it, it'll automatically happen. That's the whole point of meta gems, right? So what is Hand of Chayula? A lot of you guys already know what this is, but some folks are brand new to the game or they've never played Monk before. But it says you dash to a target or an enemy and strike them with an unarmed attack, applying socketed curses and marks with reduced effects. This skill always strikes with your bare fist, even if you have a quarterstaff equipped. So what does that mean? You're going to have Hand of Chayula, and after that, we're going to put a mark in there. In this example, we have Sniper's Mark. Another one here is a curse because it says the following: Hand of Chayula, curse and mark. So here's our mark. Here's our curse. Our curse here is vulnerability. Let's put this into practice. Okay, real quick, just so you know, Hand of Chayula does not require spirit reservation. It's simply a melee attack with linked curses and marks. So simply zip in, and what you're going to do is you're going to mark an enemy and you're going to curse them. So there it is right there. There's 2 symbols. There's a mark symbol and a curse symbol on that enemy right there. So just remember this. If you're still confused, just find an uncut spirit gem, okay, any level, and then engrave it. Then from here, find out which one of these fits your play style, and then also experiment. Okay, so if you want more automation, just flip through here and find something that's more automated, such as the examples I showed in this video, like cast on freeze, cast on shock. The details and the tooltips explain everything that you need to know in the game. Okay, just remember, some of these meta gems will require energy, whereas others just simply require no energy at all, and you simply just attack. A lot of these meta gems will also require a reservation of spirit. So cast on shock, if you look off over here to the tooltip, reservation, 60 spirit. So my recommendation is when you're going through this list, look at what you can afford, how much spirit you have, and then is this or will this have synergy with your build? Will it work? Okay, try them all out. Which meta gems are you using and why? Thanks for watching.